Doyan stood in the great hall of the Galactic Council Station, watching the alien representatives ignore him. He had been waiting for 3 hours now. His formal request to speak had been submitted 2 weeks ago. The council chamber stretched above him like a cathedral, with seats arranged in circles that rose higher and higher. The most powerful species sat at the top. Humanity's seat was at the bottom, almost on the floor. He checked his tablet again. The message from G1 still burned in his mind. Another ship seized. Another cargo stolen. This time it was medical supplies meant for the human colony on Arcturus 9. Children were sick there. They needed those medicines. But the Kralix Empire had taken everything, Ambassador Doyan. A voice echoed through the hall. It belonged to Corvin, a tall being made of what looked like crystal and light. The Ascended caste controlled the council. They had been in space for 50,000 years. Humans had been here for 50. Yes, Arbiter, Doyan said, keeping his voice calm. He had learned not to show emotion. The council saw human emotions as primitive. Your petition has been reviewed. The council finds no grounds for complaint. The Kralix Empire acted within standard security protocols. Doyan felt his jaw tighten. They took medical supplies. They took food. This is the 3rd time this month. Junior species must accept security inspections, Corvin replied. This is established law. Then where are the supplies now? Doyan asked. He looked up at Velthor, the Kralix representative. The reptilian alien sat in his chair, his long tail wrapped around the seat. He was smiling. Doyan knew that smile. It meant the Kralix thought they had won. Lost in processing, Velthor said, his voice hissing through his translator. Unfortunate, but these things happen to primitive cargo systems. Minho touched Doyan's arm. The security chief stood beside him, wearing his formal uniform. We have proof, Minho whispered. We tracked the supplies. Doyan nodded. He activated his tablet and projected the images into the air. These photographs show Kralix officials selling our medical supplies on the black market at Terminus Station. We have transaction records. We have witness statements. The council chamber fell silent. Doyan watched the representatives look at the evidence. Some seemed surprised. Others looked away. Velthor's smile grew wider. Interesting, Corvin said after a long pause. However, internal Kralix commerce is not council business. Your complaint is denied? Denied? Doyan's voice rose despite his training. They stole from us and you see the proof. Control yourself, human, another representative said. This one belonged to the Torvex Collective. Your species should be grateful you have a seat here at all. 50 years is nothing. You are infants in the galaxy. G1 stepped forward from the observer section. She was not supposed to speak, but Doyan saw the anger in her eyes. Her cargo ship had been seized. Her crew had been held for 2 days without food or water. Grateful? G1 said. We have sent our soldiers to defend council borders. We have shared our resources. We have followed every law. And for what? So you can steal from us and call it legal? Remove her, Corvin ordered. Security drones moved toward G1. Minho stepped between them and her. She's leaving, he said quietly. He guided G1 back to the doors. As they walked, Doyan heard her crying. Not from sadness. From rage. The council session continued. Doyan tried to raise other issues. Human colonies that were denied trade permits. Human ships that were forced to take long routes around council space. Human citizens who were arrested for small violations but held for months. Every complaint was dismissed. Every piece of evidence was ignored. Finally, Corvin stood. This council has been patient with humanity, but your constant complaints grow tiresome. Perhaps your species is not ready for galactic civilization. Doyan said nothing. He had learned that silence was sometimes the only weapon he had. That night he sat in his office on the station. Minho brought him a bottle of Earth whiskey. They poured 2 glasses and sat without speaking for a while. How much longer? Minho finally asked. I don't know, Doyan replied. Maybe we should just accept our place? Maybe they're right. Maybe we are too young for this. Minho shook his head. You don't believe that? No, Doyen admitted. But what choice do we have? His communication console beeped. It was an emergency channel. Doyen activated it and saw the face of Admiral Haijin appear on the screen. She looked tired. No, not tired. Devastated. Ambassador Doyen, she said. I have terrible news. The research station at Kepler 442 has been destroyed. 300 people are dead? Doyen felt the blood drain from his face. How? What happened? A Krulix battle fleet was conducting exercises in the area. They said their weapons accidentally locked onto our station. They fired before they could stop. The station was completely destroyed. There were no survivors. 300 people? Doyen whispered. Scientists, families, children. I'm sending you all the data, Haijin continued. The trajectory analysis, the weapon signatures. Ambassador, their safety protocols should have prevented this. Their targeting systems should have identified a civilian station. This was no accident. Minho leaned forward. Can we prove it? Yes, Haijin said. But will it matter? Doyen knew the answer. He had seen the council dismiss evidence before. He had watched them protect the senior species no matter what crimes they committed. He had felt the weight of being powerless. Request an emergency council session, Doyen said. Immediately. We'll present the evidence. The emergency session was held 6 hours later. Doyen stood in the center of the chamber, projection data streaming around him. He showed the trajectory. He showed the weapon signatures. He showed the communication logs that proved the Krulix ships had locked onto the station for a full minute before firing. More than enough time to stop. 300 humans are dead, Doyen said, his voice echoing in the silent chamber. 300 innocent people. We demand a full investigation. We demand justice. Velthor stood slowly. The Krulix Empire expresses its condolences. This was a tragic training accident. We will review our protocols. That's not enough, Doyen said. It is all you will receive, Corvin replied. The council finds no evidence of intentional wrongdoing. The Krulix explanation is accepted. This matter is closed. Closed? Doyen looked around the chamber. Just like that? You won't even investigate? We have investigated, Corvin said. Your evidence shows an accident. Nothing more. You're protecting them, Minho said from beside Doyen. You all protect each other. The senior species do whatever they want and the junior species just have to accept it. This is how galactic civilization functions, another representative said. Order must be maintained. Hierarchy must be respected. Doyen felt something break inside him. 50 years. 50 years of patience. 50 years of following rules. 50 years of being treated like children who should be grateful for scraps. And now 300 of his people were dead, and the council called it an accident. He looked at Velthor. The Krulix was smiling again. That same smile. The smile of someone who knew they could do anything without consequence. I see, Doyen said quietly. He gathered his papers. He shut down his projections. He turned toward the door. Where are you going? Corvin asked. This session is not dismissed. Doyen stopped. He looked back at the council. At the beings who thought themselves so superior. At the civilization that was built on the suffering of weaker species. I'm going to send a message to Earth, Doyen said. I'm going to tell them the truth. That the Galactic Council does not care about justice. That they do not care about law. That they only care about power. And I'm going to tell them that we've been patient long enough. He walked out of the chamber. Minho followed him. Behind them, the council representatives murmured among themselves. Doyen heard Velthor laugh. In his office, Doyen composed the message. He chose his words carefully. When he was done, he sent it on the fastest channel to Earth, to the government, to the military, to everyone who needed to know. The message was simple. They believe we will never fight back. They believe we will always accept their abuse. They believe our patience means we are weak. They are wrong. Request instructions. He sat back and waited for the reply. It came faster than he expected. 3 words from the Prime Minister himself. Come home, Ambassador. Doyan looked at Minho. It's starting. Good, Minho replied. It's about time. The emergency meeting room in Geneva was filled with the most powerful people on Earth. Prime Minister Taejin sat at the head of the table, his face calm but his eyes hard. Around him sat the leaders of Earth's government, military, and intelligence services. Doyan stood at the front, his presentation floating in the air before them. Show them everything, Taejin said. Doyan nodded. He pulled up file after file. Ship seizures. Denied trade permits. Arbitrary arrests. Forced detours that cost human merchants millions. Colonies cut off from supplies. And finally, the destruction of the research station at Kepler 442. 300 faces appeared on the screen. Scientists, engineers, their families. All dead. This is what 50 years of membership in the Galactic Council has given us, Doyan said. We followed their laws. We contributed our resources. We sent our soldiers to defend their borders. And in return, they treat us like slaves. Admiral Haijin stood next. She was a woman in her 60s, with gray hair and scars from the border war of 2231. I've been analyzing their military capabilities. The Council species rely on advanced technology, yes, but they've been at peace for thousands of years. They fight small conflicts with minor species. They've forgotten what real war looks like. And we haven't? Asked one of the ministers. We haven't, Haijin replied. We've had peace on Earth for only 80 years. Before that, we fought each other for thousands of years. We know war. We understand war. They've forgotten. Sung-hoon stepped forward next. He was the intelligence officer who had been documenting every abuse, every crime, every injustice. His files were extensive. I've been tracking patterns across the Council. This isn't just about humanity. They do this to every junior species. It's systematic. The senior species maintain power by keeping the younger ones weak and afraid. He pulled up more data. 6 other species were classified as junior members. All of them faced the same treatment. All of them had lost ships, been denied rights, and seen their people killed with no justice. They think this is normal, Sung-hoon continued. They've done it for so long that they don't even see it as wrong anymore. They believe this is how civilization works. Taejin listened to everything. He read every report. He looked at every face of the dead. Finally, he spoke. Options? We could try diplomatic pressure, one minister suggested. Lodge formal complaints. Build alliances with other junior species. We've tried that for 50 years, Doyan said. It doesn't work. The Council only respects power. Then we show them power, Haijin said. We issue an ultimatum. Return everything they've stolen. Pay reparations for our dead. Give us equal status. Or we leave the Council. And if they refuse? Another minister asked. Then we defend ourselves, Haijin replied simply. The room fell silent. Everyone understood what that meant. War. Against species that had been in space for thousands of years. Against an alliance of dozens of worlds. Against technology that seemed like magic, Taejin stood. He walked to the window and looked out at the city below. Earth had finally achieved peace. The wars were over. Humanity had united. And now he was being asked to throw all of that away. If we do this, he said slowly, there's no going back. The galaxy will see us as rebels, as criminals, as savages. They already see us that way, Doyan said. The only difference is we'll stop pretending otherwise. Taejin turned back to the room. Admiral Haijin. Can we win? In a straight fight? No, they have more ships, more worlds, more resources. But we don't have to fight straight. We have advantages they don't expect. Explain. Haijin pulled up tactical displays. They use energy weapons, plasma cannons, particle beams. Very advanced. Very elegant. Also, very limited by the Treaty of Ancient Wars. They signed agreements thousands of years ago limiting weapon development. And we didn't sign those treaties, Teijin said, understanding. Exactly. We've been developing weapons they banned millennia ago. Railguns, missiles, nuclear weapons, kinetic bombardment. We've even been experimenting with antimatter warheads. Their shields are designed to stop energy weapons. They've never faced kinetic weapons traveling at relativistic speeds. That's an advantage, Sung-hoon added. But our biggest advantage is that they underestimate us. They think we're primitives playing at civilization. They don't know what we're capable of. Teijin returned to his seat. He looked at each person in the room. If we do this, people will die. Human people. Maybe millions. Maybe more. People are already dying, Doyon said quietly. 300 at Kepler 442. How many more before we say enough? The Prime Minister closed his eyes. When he opened them, his decision was made. Draft the ultimatum. 72 hours. They return everything they've stolen? They pay full reparations for Kepler 442. They grant humanity equal status in the Council with full voting rights. If they refuse any of these terms, we withdraw from the Council and defend our sovereignty by any means necessary. They'll refuse, Haijin said. I know, Teijin replied. Begin mobilization. Quietly, recall all civilian ships to human space. Alert the colonies. Prepare our defenses, but do it silently. We don't want to provoke them before we're ready. The meeting adjourned. As people filed out, Doyon remained behind. Teijin noticed and waited. You think I'm making a mistake? The Prime Minister said. No, Doyon replied. I think you're making the only choice we have left. But I'm afraid of what comes next. So am I, Teijin admitted. But I'm more afraid of what happens if we do nothing. If we accept this. If we teach our children that it's acceptable to be treated this way. Doyon nodded. When do you deliver the ultimatum? Tomorrow. I'll address the Council directly via hologram. I want them to see my face when I say it. I want them to know we're serious. The next day, the Galactic Council chamber was full. Word had spread that Earth's Prime Minister would address them directly. This was unusual. Junior species normally only spoke through their ambassadors. Some representatives were curious. Others were annoyed at the presumption. Taijin's hologram appeared in the center of the chamber. He wore a simple black suit. No decorations. No symbols of office. Just a man representing his species. Members of the Galactic Council, he began. I am Teijin, Prime Minister of Earth. I come before you today not to ask for justice because I know you will not give it. I come to state facts and deliver terms. Murmurs filled the chamber. Corvin raised a crystalline hand for silence. Teijin continued. For 50 years, humanity has served the Council faithfully. We have contributed our resources. We have sent our soldiers to defend your borders. We have followed your laws. In return, you have stolen from us. You have denied us our rights. You have killed our people. 300 humans died at Kepler 442, and you called it an accident. We know it was not. Velther started to stand, but Taijin's voice cut him off. I am not finished. Earth hereby issues the following terms. You have 72 hours to comply. 1. Return all seized human vessels and cargo with full compensation for damages. 2. Pay complete reparations for the destruction of Kepler 442 Research Station. 3. Grant humanity equal status in this council with full voting rights. These terms are not negotiable, and if we refuse? Corvin asked, his voice cold. Then humanity withdraws from the Galactic Council and pursues alternative arrangements, Teijin replied. We will defend our sovereignty by any means necessary. We will protect our people by any means necessary. We will secure our future by any means necessary. The chamber erupted. Representatives shouted. Some demanded Teijin's hologram be shut off. Others laughed at the presumption. Velther's hissing voice rose above the others. You dare threaten the Council? You primitive species with your 40 worlds? We have thousands. We have fleets that could turn your worlds to glass. You have 3 days to apologize for your insolence, or we will remind you of your place. Taijin's expression never changed. 72 hours. After that, we will consider any council vessel in human space to be hostile. Any attempt to seize our ships will be met with force. Any attack on our colonies will be considered an act of war. Choose wisely. The hologram vanished. In the chamber, chaos reigned. Some representatives were outraged. Others were confused. A few looked worried. But most laughed. The idea that humanity could threaten the council was absurd. They had been in space for only a few decades. What could they possibly do? Only one representative didn't laugh. Boran of the Tethric sat quietly in his junior species seat. His people had been council members for 200 years. 200 years of the same treatment humanity faced. He watched the others laugh, and he thought about what Taijin had said. Alternative arrangements. After the session, Boran sent a coded message to his homeworld. Watch the humans carefully. They may have found a way out. On Earth, the countdown began. 72 hours. The military moved into position. Ships powered up their weapons. Marines loaded into dropships. Orbital defense platforms came online. Every human colony received the same message. Prepare for the worst. Jury stood on the bridge of the EFS Indomitable. She was a woman of 40, with a scar across her jaw from a pirate raid years ago. Her ship was one of Earth's newest cruisers, and it was now stationed at the border of human space, waiting. Think they'll comply? Her first officer asked. Jury shook her head. No, they think we're bluffing. They think we'll back down. They're wrong. What if we lose? The council declared human territory open for reclamation exactly 1 hour after the ultimatum expired. The decree was issued with all the formality of galactic law. Humanity had refused to apologize. Humanity had refused to know its place. Therefore, humanity would be taught a lesson. Velther volunteered to lead the operation. He assembled an armada of 200 Kralix warships. Each ship was sleek and powerful, built with technology refined over thousands of years. Their plasma cannons could cut through asteroid fields. Their particle beams could melt battle stations. Their shields had never been breached. This will be quick, Velther told his fleet commanders. The humans have perhaps 50 warships. Primitive vessels. We will destroy them, occupy their border worlds, and the council will impose new terms. Terms that will ensure they never forget their place again. His fleet departed from Kralix space with great ceremony. Other council species watched with approval. Some sent their own ships to observe. This would be a lesson for all junior species. Step out of line, and this is what happens. On the bridge of his flagship, the Supremacy, Velther watched the jump coordinates being calculated. They would emerge in the Eden 5 system, humanity's furthest colony. A small world, barely 2 million humans. They would surrender immediately when they saw his fleet. He was certain of it. Jump in 30 seconds, his navigator announced. Velther smiled, that smile. The one that said he had already won. Light years away, Captain Jury stood on the bridge of the Indomitable. Around her ship floated 12 other human vessels. Cruisers and destroyers mostly. Her fleet looked tiny compared to what was coming. She knew the numbers. 200 Kralix ships against 13 human ships. The odds were suicide. Contacts. Her sensor officer called out. 200 ships dropping out of jump. Kralix configuration. Weapons hot. Here we go, Jury said calmly. All ships, battle stations, activate weapons. Let's show them what we brought to this fight. The Kralix fleet emerged from their jump in perfect formation. Velther saw the human ships immediately. 13 vessels against his 200, he actually laughed. Open a channel, he ordered. Let them surrender with dignity. But before the channel could open, the human ships opened fire. Jury watched the tactical display. Fire all forward railguns, full barrage. The Indomitable shuddered as its main weapons fired. Railguns, 6 of them, each capable of accelerating a tungsten rod to a significant fraction of light speed. The other human ships fired as well. Dozens of projectiles streaked across space at velocities that bent physics on the supremacy. Velthar's tactical officer screamed, "Incoming projectiles! Mass detection!" "Impossible," Velthar said. "Our sensors show nothing." "They're not using energy weapons?" The officer shouted. "They're using kinetic projectiles." "Our shields?" The first railgun round hit a Krallick's destroyer. The shield, designed to deflect energy beams and plasma, might as well have been paper. The tungsten rod punched through the shield, through the hull, through the reactor, and out the other side. The ship exploded in a ball of blue fire. Then the rest of the barrage hit. 12 Krallick ships died in the first 10 seconds. Their shields did nothing. Their armor did nothing. The kinetic rounds hit with the force of nuclear weapons, and there was nothing the advanced technology could do to stop them. "Evasive maneuvers," Velthar ordered. "Return fire." The Krallick's fleet scattered and began firing their plasma cannons. Beautiful beams of green energy lanced across space toward the human ships. They hit the human shields and dissipated. The human ships kept coming. "Why aren't their shields falling?" Velthar demanded. "They're using layered energy deflection," his science officer reported. "Primitive but effective. Our weapons aren't penetrating." Curie smiled. Humanity had studied council weapons for 50 years. They knew exactly how plasma cannons and particle beams worked. Their shields were specifically designed to counter them. Meanwhile, the council had never seen kinetic weapons before. "Launch missiles," Curie ordered. "Pattern Omega." Missile tubes opened along the human ships. Hundreds of missiles streaked out. These weren't guided by simple computers. Each missile had an AI core that could think and adapt. They weaved through space, dodging Krallick's countermeasures, splitting into smaller warheads, choosing their targets with precision. The Krallick's fleet tried to shoot them down. They destroyed some, but not enough. The missiles reached their targets and detonated. Nuclear fire bloomed across the battlefield. 20 more Krallick ships vanished in atomic fury. Nuclear weapons? Velthar couldn't believe it. "They're using nuclear weapons? Those are banned." "We never signed the ban," Curie said to her crew, though Velthar couldn't hear her. "Fire again, all weapons." The battle turned into a massacre. The Krallick ships were faster and more maneuverable than the human vessels. Their weapons were more advanced. Their crews were better trained, but none of it mattered. Every time a plasma beam hit a human ship, the shields held. Every time a human railgun fired, a Krallick ship died. Every time a human missile launched, more Krallick's vessels exploded. Commander Changmin watched from his outpost on Eden 5. He commanded the ground defense forces. They had expected to be fighting a desperate battle against landing forces. Instead, they watched the space battle through telescopes and sensors, and they couldn't believe what they were seeing. "We're winning," one of his officers said, voice filled with awe. "We're surviving," Changmin corrected. "That's not the same thing, but it's enough." In the third hour of battle, Velthar finally understood he was going to lose. His fleet of 200 ships had been reduced to 40. The human fleet had lost only 2 ships, despite being outnumbered 15 to 1. "We must retreat," his first officer said. Velthar wanted to refuse, wanted to keep fighting. But he wasn't stupid, he was beaten. "All ships emergency jump. Retreat to Krallick space." The surviving Krallick's vessels activated their jump drives and vanished. The human ships didn't pursue. They couldn't. Their jump drives were slower, and they needed to defend Eden 5 in case more council ships came. On the indomitable, Curie's crew erupted in cheers. They had done it. 13 ships against 200, and they had won. "Captain," her communications officer said, "Admiral Hyjin is on the line. She wants a full report." Curie straightened her uniform. "Tell her we've secured Eden 5, enemy fleet destroyed or routed. We're ready for the next attack. You think they'll come back?" "Yes," Curie said. "This was just the beginning. Once the Council sees what happened here, they'll send more ships. Many more ships, we hurt their pride. They won't stop until they beat us or we beat them." She was right. On the Council station, emergency sessions were being held. The news from Eden 5 had shocked everyone. 200 Kralik ships defeated by 13 human vessels? It seemed impossible. Some representatives claimed Velther was lying. Others demanded to see the battle recordings. When the recordings were shown, the council chamber fell silent. They watched human weapons tear through their ships. They watched nuclear explosions that violated every treaty. They watched technology they thought was primitive destroy technology they thought was invincible. How? Someone finally asked. They use kinetic weapons, a military analyst explained. Solid projectiles accelerated to extreme velocities. Our shields don't stop them. They also used nuclear warheads. We banned these weapons after the ancient wars because they were too destructive. We thought no civilized species would use them again. But the humans never signed those treaties, Corvin said slowly. They never agreed to ban these weapons. Correct. They've been developing weapons that we abandoned millennia ago. Weapons we forgot how to fight against. The representative from the Torvex Collective stood. Then we send more ships. Better prepared, we adapt. We should negotiate, another voice said. It was born of the Tethric. The humans prove they can defend themselves. Perhaps we should reconsider their demands. Negotiate? Velther's voice echoed through the chamber. He had returned, his flagship crippled but still functional. They killed thousands of my people. They destroyed a fleet. We must respond with overwhelming force. He's right, the Torvex representative agreed. We cannot show weakness. If we negotiate now, every junior species will think they can defy us. We must crush humanity completely, Corvin considered for a long moment. Very well. We will form a combined fleet, multiple species, 600 ships. We will attack humanity on multiple fronts simultaneously. They cannot defend everywhere at once, the motion passed. 3 council species would join the Kraliks in a second campaign. 600 ships. The largest military operation the council had launched in 1,000 years. On Earth, Taejin received the intelligence reports. 600 ships, multiple attack points. His military advisors looked worried. Even Admiral Haijin seemed concerned. Can we hold? Taejin asked. Maybe, Haijin replied. But we'll take heavy losses. We have 47 warships total. Even with our technological advantages, those numbers are overwhelming. Sung-Hun spoke up. We have other options. We don't have to fight them head-on. Explain, Taejin said. The council species think like an empire. Big fleets, direct confrontation. But we know other ways to fight. Guerrilla tactics, sabotage, hit their supply lines. Make it expensive for them to keep coming. You mean fight dirty? One minister said. I mean fight smart. The council's combined fleet jumped into 7 different human systems simultaneously. 600 ships. 4 species united. They expected panic. They expected chaos. They expected quick victory. What they found instead were empty colonies and waiting traps. Admiral Soman watched the tactical display from her command ship. The Soul's Pride? She was responsible for coordinating humanity's defense across multiple fronts. It was an impossible job. 7 battlefields. 600 enemy ships. Only 47 human vessels to defend them all. Status? She asked. Enemy forces confirmed at all 7 locations, her tactical officer reported. Fleet composition, 200 Kraliks, 150 Torvex, 100 Mordrin, and 100 Velkesh. They're advancing toward our colonies. And our people? Civilian evacuations complete at 5 locations. The other 2 are fortified but not evacuated. They chose to stay and fight. Soman closed her eyes briefly. She had argued against letting civilians stay, but she understood. These were their homes. Some people would rather die defending them than abandon them. Execute Plan Scorpion, she ordered, at the Arcturus system. The Kraliks fleet advanced toward the human colony. They detected no defense fleet. No orbital platforms. The planet seemed helpless. Perfect. Begin bombardment, the Kraliks commander ordered. But as his ships entered effective range, the asteroid field around the planet suddenly came alive. What the Kraliks had thought were simple rocks were actually mines. Human-made mines with chemical explosives and nuclear warheads. They detonated in sequence, creating a wall of fire and destruction. 30 Krallic ships vanished before they could react. Ambush! The commander screamed. Evasive maneuvers. From the other side of the planet, human ships emerged. Not a big fleet, just 6 destroyers, but they fired immediately. Their railguns punching through the confused Krallic's formation. At the Deneb system, the Torvex fleet faced a different problem. The human colony had been evacuated, yes, but someone had left gifts behind. As the Torvex ships entered orbit, automated defense platforms activated. These platforms had been built into the colony infrastructure, disguised as communication towers and power stations. They opened fire with everything: railguns, missiles, laser-guided rockets. The Torvex ships scrambled to respond, but the platforms were small and numerous. Destroying them all took time. Time that allowed human ships to arrive and strike from behind, across all 7 battlefields. The pattern repeated: ambush, hit-and-run attacks. Traps laid with brutal efficiency. The Council fleet had more ships, but they were fighting blind. They didn't know where the next attack would come from. They didn't know which asteroid was a mine and which was just rock. Jeho and his Special Forces team watched from stealth as a Mordran supply convoy passed through the Sirius system. The convoy had 40 ships carrying ammunition, fuel, and replacement parts for the Mordran fleet. Destroying it would cripple their ability to continue the campaign. Teams in position? Jeho whispered into his comm. Team 2 ready. Team 3 ready. Then let's go shopping, Jeho said with a grim smile. The human stealth ships were small, barely larger than shuttles. They used passive systems and heat sinks to stay invisible. They drifted up to the convoy like ghosts. When they were close enough, Marines in powered armor used magnetic grapplers to board the enemy vessels. What followed was fast and brutal. The Mordran crew never stood a chance. Human Marines moved through the ships, their weapons suppressed, their movements silent. Within 20 minutes, 8 supply ships were captured. The rest of the convoy didn't even know they were under attack. Jeho's team planted explosives on the remaining ships, set to delayed timers. Then they escaped back to their stealth vessels. 6 hours later, when the convoy was deep in Mordran space, the explosives detonated. 32 supply ships vanished in a series of explosions that lit up the system. The Mordran fleet at the front lines suddenly found themselves low on ammunition and fuel. They couldn't continue their advance. They had to pull back and wait for new supplies. One front neutralized through sabotage. At the Titan's Gate, Minho commanded the defense of a critical waypoint. This system connected 3 different human colonies. If it fell, the Council could split humanity's territory in half. They couldn't let that happen. The Velkesh fleet arrived with 100 ships. They saw only 12 human vessels defending the waypoint. They assumed it would be easy. They were wrong. Minho had spent 3 weeks preparing this system. He knew every asteroid, every orbit, every gravitational current, and he had used that knowledge to turn the system into a weapon. Let them come closer, he told his fleet. Wait for it. The Velkesh advanced confidently. They were within firing range when Minho gave the order. Now, hidden among the asteroids were dozens of mass drivers. Simple machines that could throw large rocks very fast. Not as fast as railguns, but fast enough. And rocks were free, the mass drivers activated simultaneously. Thousands of rocks, some as large as cars, some as small as baseballs, all accelerated toward the Velkesh fleet. At those speeds, even a small rock hit like a bomb. The Velkesh shield stopped the big ones. But there were too many small ones. The rocks punched through shields, cracked hulls, shattered sensors and weapons. 20 Velkesh ships took critical damage before they could retreat out of range. Then Minho's fleet attacked from behind. While the Velkesh were dealing with the rocks, human ships had maneuvered into a perfect firing position. Railguns and missiles hit the Velkesh from their weakest angle. 30 more ships destroyed. The Velkesh commander ordered a full retreat. He had lost 50 ships and hadn't even reached the human defensive line. This was supposed to be a quick campaign. Instead, it was a nightmare. At Earth, Tajin received the reports. The news was mixed. Humanity was winning tactical victories. The Council fleets were taking heavy losses, but the numbers were still against them. The Council could afford to lose ships. Humanity could not. "We've destroyed or disabled 180 Council ships," Admiral Hyjin reported. "But we've lost 11 of our own. We can't maintain this exchange rate forever." "Then we need to change the game," Tajin said. "What about Haniel's proposal?" Hyjin looked uncomfortable. "You mean the Scorched Star Protocol?" "Yes," scientist Haniel stepped forward. She was young, barely 30, but brilliant. She had designed some of humanity's most devastating weapons. And her latest proposal was the most terrible of all. "The Scorched Star Protocol is simple," Haniel explained. "If a human system is about to fall, we detonate multiple nuclear devices in specific patterns around the star. This creates massive solar flares and electromagnetic pulses. It doesn't destroy the system, but it makes it unusable for decades. No electronics will work. No ships can safely navigate. We make sure that if we lose ground, the Council can't use it either." "That's barbaric," one minister protested. "That's survival," Haniel replied. "The Council thinks they can just take our worlds and use them against us. This protocol ensures they can't. If they want our territory, they'll have to fight for every empty, useless system." "It also means we can't go back to those systems," another minister pointed out. "Not for decades, yes," Haniel agreed. "But it buys us time. It makes this war too expensive for them to continue." Tajin thought about it. The decision weighed on him. To deliberately make human colonies uninhabitable, even temporarily, was a desperate move. But they were in a desperate situation. "Approved," he finally said. "Implement the Scorched Star Protocol at any system we cannot hold, but only as a last resort." The war entered its third month. The Council had launched their campaign expecting victory in weeks. Instead, they were bogged down in a grinding conflict that cost them ships and resources daily. Every advance was contested. Every supply line was vulnerable. Every system they took was either empty or booby-trapped. Captain Yuna led her fighter wing through the debris field. Around Eden 7, her squadron was outnumbered 3-1, but they had advantages. Human fighters were smaller and more maneuverable than Council attack craft. They also carried weapons the Council had never faced. "Missiles away," Yuna ordered. Her squadron released their payload. Small, nuclear-tipped missiles, each with just enough yield to take out a fighter or damage a larger ship. The Council pilots tried to evade, but the missiles were smart. They adjusted course, weaved through countermeasures, and found their targets, 17 Council fighters. Destroyed, Yuna's squadron vanished into the debris field before the survivors could retaliate. That was the human way. Hit hard. Hit fast. Disappear. Make the enemy afraid to advance because death could come from anywhere. The psychological effect was devastating. Council pilots became nervous. Commanders became cautious. The bold advance became a hesitant crawl. Every shadow might hide human ships. Every asteroid might be a mine. Every empty system might be a trap. On the Council station, arguments raged. The war was not going as planned. They had lost over 300 ships. Humanity had lost 23. The exchange rate was unsustainable. "We must commit more forces," Velther insisted. "Send 1,000 ships. 2,000. Overwhelm them with numbers. And bankrupt ourselves in the process?" Another representative countered. "This war is costing us billions. Our economies are suffering. Our people are questioning why we're fighting primitives who refuse to surrender." Tajin stood in the same Geneva meeting room where this had all begun 4 months ago. The faces around the table were different now. Some of the original ministers had died in Council attacks. Admiral Hyjin had a new scar across her cheek from a boarding action. Everyone looked tired. War did that to people. "They want to negotiate," Tajin said, reading the Council's message aloud. "They propose a ceasefire. Neutral ground. Full diplomatic teams. They're willing to discuss our original demands." "It's a trap?" Doyon said immediately. They want us to lower our guard so they can strike. Maybe, Sung-hoon replied. But my intelligence says otherwise. The council is fracturing. The junior species coalition is real. The economic costs are mounting. They need this war to end as much as we do. Haijin spoke next. Militarily, we're holding. But barely. We've lost 27 ships. That's more than half our fleet. We can keep fighting, but every battle costs us ships we can't replace quickly. If they commit another wave, we might not survive it. But we've proven they can't beat us easily, Soman added via hologram from her command ship. We've destroyed over 400 of their vessels. They started with 600. They're down to less than 200 combat-effective ships in human space. And they're afraid to advance because of our tactics? Taejin listened to all of them. Then he asked the question that mattered most. If we negotiate, what do we ask for? Everything, Doyon said. Our original demands plus reparations for the war they started? They'll never agree to that, another minister argued. Then we continue fighting, Doyon replied. We've sacrificed too much to settle for less than we deserve. Taejin looked at each person in turn. Finally, he made his decision. We negotiate. But we negotiate from strength, not weakness. We keep our fleets active. We keep our defenses ready. And we demand everything. If they refuse, we walk away and continue the war. But we try peace first. That's who we are. That's who we've always been. The message went back to the council. Humanity would negotiate. The location was chosen, Neutral Station Sigma, a trading post run by an independent species. The date was set for 1 week. Both sides began preparing. Not just diplomatically, but militarily. Neither trusted the other. Both prepared for the possibility that negotiations would fail and war would resume. At Neutral Station Sigma, security was intense. Council guards and human marines watched each other warily. The station administrator, a floating jellyfish-like creature named Quillix, tried to keep everyone calm. No weapons in the negotiation chamber, Quillix announced. No recording devices. No military uniforms. Just diplomats talking. Can we agree to this? Both sides agreed. The human delegation arrived first. Taejin led them, accompanied by Doyon, Admiral Haijin, and Minister Yunji, who had tried so hard to avoid this war. They wore simple civilian clothes. But everyone knew who they were. The council delegation arrived next. Corvin led them along with representatives from each major species. Velther was there too, his face showing barely controlled rage. He had lost the most ships. His pride demanded vengeance. The two groups sat across from each other at a long table. For a long moment, nobody spoke. 4 months of war hung in the air between them. Thousands dead on both sides. Ships destroyed. Colonies damaged. Trust shattered. Corvin spoke first. Prime Minister Taejin. The Council acknowledges that this conflict has been costly for both sides. We are prepared to discuss terms. Terms? Taejin replied calmly. Before we discuss terms, let's discuss responsibility. The Council stole from us. The Council killed our people. The Council refused justice. We asked peacefully for our rights. You laughed at us. This war exists because you chose oppression over fairness. You attacked Council vessels. Velther hissed. You killed thousands. After you destroyed our research station, Doyon said coldly. After you killed 300 of our civilians. We defended ourselves. That's not a crime. That's survival. Yunji leaned forward. Let's be clear about something. Humanity doesn't want to conquer the galaxy. We never did. We want what we asked for from the beginning. Equal treatment. Equal rights. Equal justice. If the Council had given us that 4 months ago, none of this would have happened. The Council maintains order through hierarchy, another representative said. Without structure, there is chaos. Your structure is oppression, Haijin replied. You maintain order by keeping junior species weak and afraid. That's not civilization. That's tyranny. The argument continued for hours. The council representatives tried to defend their system. The human delegation dismantled every argument. Finally, Corvin raised a crystalline hand for silence. Enough. We are not here to debate philosophy. We are here to end a war. Prime Minister Taejin, state your terms. Taejin pulled out a document. He had written it himself the night before. These are humanity's terms for peace. 1. The Council recognizes humanity as an equal member with full voting rights. 2. All seized human property is returned immediately with full compensation. 3. The Council pays complete reparations for Kepler 442, research station and all other damages caused by Council actions. 4. The Galactic Council is reformed to give all member species equal representation, eliminating the distinction between senior and junior members. 5. Velthor and all commanders responsible for war crimes are tried by an independent tribunal. The council representatives stared in shock. Then several started talking at once, voices raised in outrage. Impossible. You ask us to surrender. These terms are unacceptable. Velthor stood, his chair crashing backward. You primitives dare demand we face trial? I will see your species burn before I accept this. Taejin remained calm. Then the war continues. We're prepared for that. Are you? You think your 20 remaining ships can stand against us? Velthor shouted. We think our 20 ships plus the 240 ships of the Alliance of Free Worlds can make this very expensive for you, Taejin replied. And we think that while you're busy fighting us, other junior species will rebel, and eventually your empire of oppression will crumble. The only question is how many must die before you accept the inevitable. Corvin stood slowly. Prime Minister, we need time to discuss this. Grant us a recess. You have 1 hour, Taejin said. The council delegation retreated to their chambers. Through closed doors, humans could hear shouting, arguments. Some voices demanded continued war. Others called for acceptance. The debate raged. In the human chamber, Doyeon looked worried. We pushed hard. Maybe too hard. No, Taejin replied. We asked for what we deserve. Anything less would be betraying everyone who died for this. What if they refuse? Eunji asked. Then we go back to war, Haijin said simply. And we fight until one side breaks completely. The hour passed slowly. Finally, Quillix announced that both sides should return to the negotiation chamber. The council delegation looked tired. Defeated, Corvin spoke first. The council cannot accept all of your terms, but we can accept some. We propose a compromise. We're listening, Taejin said. 1. Humanity will receive equal status with full voting rights. This we grant immediately. 2. Seized property will be returned, but compensation will be negotiated over time. 3. Reparations for Kepler 442 will be paid in full. 4. Council reform will begin, with a timeline of 10 years to implement full equality for all species. 5. War crimes trials will occur, but under council jurisdiction, not independent tribunal. Taejin considered. It wasn't everything, but it was close. He looked at his delegation. Doyeon nodded slowly. Haijin shrugged, meaning it was acceptable. Eunji smiled with relief. We have counterproposals on points 2 and 5, Taejin said. Compensation must be paid within 1 year, not negotiated indefinitely. And war crimes trials must include independent observers from the Alliance of Free Worlds to ensure fairness. More debate. More back and forth. But both sides were truly negotiating now. Not posturing. Not threatening. Actually working toward peace. 6 hours later, the treaty was drafted. Both sides read it carefully. Lawyers examined every word. Finally, both delegations agreed. There's one more thing, Taejin said before they signed. This treaty must include all species, not just humanity. The Alliance of Free Worlds must receive the same rights we're getting. That will cost us significantly, Corvin said. Yes, Taejin agreed. But it's the right thing to do. We didn't fight just for ourselves. We fought for the principle that all species deserve equality. If you want peace with humanity, you need peace with everyone. After more discussion, the council agreed. The treaty was expanded to include all junior species. Equal rights, equal votes, equal justice. When they finally signed, Quillix released celebratory fireworks outside the station. The war was over. A new era was beginning, but there was still one piece of unfinished business. Velther was arrested 2 days later. The evidence against him was overwhelming. He had ordered the attack on Kepler 442. He had deliberately targeted civilian ships. He had committed war crimes that violated even council law. His trial took 3 months. Representatives from every species attended. The evidence was presented carefully. Velther tried to defend himself, claiming he was following orders, claiming he was protecting the council, claiming humans were the real criminals. The tribunal didn't agree. He was found guilty and sentenced to prison for life.